Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com to give you my personal top 10 greatest SummerSlam matches in WWE history. I have discussed most of these matches in other videos on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, but with SummerSlam coming up, with people discussing SummerSlam and talking about their favorite matches and people going back and watching the old pay-per-views, I figured it would be a good idea to make a SummerSlam video with my list of the best matches. So I'm not going to do a 10 to 1 countdown here. Rather than that, I'm going to just go in chronological order here. So starting off, 1991 SummerSlam, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. This was the match that really put Bret Hart's singles career on the map, and it was one of Mr. Perfect's finest performances. And when you also consider the fact that he was injured going into this match, and he ended up having to take over a year off from wrestling, I mean, that makes it all the more impressive. Both guys young, at their peak physically, just an excellent technical match, and very few matches in the WWF at that time could compare to this. These two guys were at a level above everybody else when it came to just solid in-ring work and very fast-paced match for the time compared to other matches of that period. Really ahead of its time, and just a tremendous match, and Bret Hart's first big singles title win, getting the IC title from Mr. Perfect back at the time when the IC title really meant something in WWF and WWE. A year later, 1992 SummerSlam, we had Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, also for the IC title. Another classic match in front of 80,000 fans at Wembley Stadium. You had the storyline where the Bulldog was challenging for the title in his home country. You had this amazing atmosphere with the Bulldog there as the home country hero trying to capture the title, and Bret Hart was the heel in this match, even though he was a babyface character. Just an amazing match, and Bret Hart pulling off one of the best performances of his career. Just an excellent match. The story that it told, the atmosphere, everything about it was done really well. And it was the main event of the pay-per-view. The IC title match was in the main event, and the world title match was in the middle of the card. And I really feel that this was a match that not only put Bret Hart's career on the map, but made him a main eventer in the eyes of Vince McMahon, because he was given this main event spot and he went out there and he stole the show. And I think it's no coincidence that a few months later Bret Hart was the world champion. I mean, I'm sure Vince was extremely impressed with Bret's performance and knew that he was the guy he could rely on to carry the company when things were starting to go downhill following the whole steroid scandal. Bret Hart was a smaller guy, and Vince wanted to change the company and go in a new direction, and Bret Hart was the guy to go with. So, this was really a career-defining match for Bret Hart. Moving on to 1994, Bret Hart again versus Owen Hart. One thing I will say about Bret Hart, when it comes to the early 90s SummerSlams, if Undertaker was Mr. WrestleMania, Bret Hart was Mr. SummerSlam during this first decade of SummerSlam. He really carried these SummerSlam pay-per-views during the 90s. And no exception here when Bret went against his brother Owen Hart in a very memorable cage match. I used to be critical of this match because I wasn't a big fan of two wrestlers in a cage trying to constantly run away from each other, and that's what they did in this match. I always liked the cage match as a grudge match where the two guys go in there and, they're not concerned with winning. They just want to beat the hell out of each other. In this match, it was different. You had both guys trying to constantly escape the cage. But Bret Hart had mentioned that, at the time there was a ban on blood, and they did that on purpose to try to make the match more exciting. So I understand Bret's perspective on why they were trying to escape the cage all the time, because they were trying to make the match fun to watch, and it was a fun match to watch. And I do think highly of that match, and it was one of Owen Hart's greatest matches and one of his best performances, and it was the climax of that Bret Hart versus Owen Hart feud. and one of the all-time great WWE matches of that era. Moving on now to 1995, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, the ladder match rematch from WrestleMania 10. And a lot of people tend to overlook this match because when they think of Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, they think of the WrestleMania 10 match. But this one was really good as well. I mean, almost as good as the WrestleMania match, and it deserves more recognition in my opinion. And easily the best match of that SummerSlam. I mean, really the only reason to watch that SummerSlam pay-per-view is for that match. Another fantastic performance from Shawn Michaels, and Razor Ramon was good too. The only thing I didn't like was the finish because they kind of screwed it up, and Shawn was trying to grab the belt and he couldn't get it down the first time. He had to go back up again. But besides that, I mean, it was just an outstanding match, and the two of them just tore it up in the ring, and just really fun match to watch. And we got more ladder matches here from 1998. The Rock versus Triple H at SummerSlam. This was one of my all-time favorite matches of the Attitude Era. A career-defining match for both guys. I think that both guys went into this match and came out as bigger stars. They had something to prove. They were given the semi-main event spot, and they went out there and they showed the world that they are ready for the big time. And both The Rock and Triple H had an outstanding match. Both of them gave great performances. And you really saw these characters start to develop. The Rock becoming the great one and Triple H becoming the game. You were seeing the early signs of them becoming these characters. It was just, looking back, I mean, the two of them, you could see how determined and hungry they were to steal the show and how much fire they had in that match. And, that was also the climax of the DX versus Nation feud, and what a way to end it. I mean, just Triple H finally getting the big win over The Rock and the babyface prevailing. But The Rock, looked like a big star coming out of this match, and just a couple months later, he ended up being WWE champion. So this match was really the beginning of bigger things to come for both guys. Moving on here, TLC 2000, the first TLC match between Edge and Christian, the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys. Just a crazy match. All sorts of risks being taken in this match. And this was my favorite of all the matches between these three teams. I mean, they just took so many risks. And, almost every spot was done to perfection. I mean, they didn't really botch anything. Everything looked really cool. You had all the tables being broken and Jeff Hardy jumping off the ladder, and Bubba Ray going through the tables. This was just a spectacular match to watch, and still one of the most entertaining matches of all time in WWE. Probably one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. I mean, it's definitely up there in the greatest tag matches in history. This is a match that I think fans will remember for decades to come. I mean, these guys really left their mark in the ring. Moving on here to 2002, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. This was Shawn Michaels' big comeback match. He had been gone from the ring for 4 years. He came back and he proved to the world that he still had it. And the two of these guys just told a great story here. You had the storyline where Triple H turned on Shawn, and then you had this match. And this match was all about the psychology. If TLC was about the spots and all the crazy stuff, this match, it was about the psychology. Shawn Michaels had the back injury, and they played that into the match. And every little thing they did meant so much because of the psychology. When Triple H would give Shawn Michaels a side suplex through the chair, you were like, oh my God, like you were like really concerned about Shawn Michaels because you knew about his back, and WWE was playing up on it, and it really added to the dramatic effect of the match. And it was just incredible. I mean, both guys told a great story, and the pacing, everything about this match was perfect. There's no way I could criticize this match. One of the best matches of all time. And Shawn Michaels got the win in his big comeback, and then Triple H, as the dastardly heel, laid him out after the match and left him in a heap. So, fantastic stuff here. And also from that SummerSlam, in my opinion, the best SummerSlam of all time from 2002, we had The Rock versus Brock Lesnar, the match that was career defining for Brock Lesnar because he won his first WWE title, and he was built up really strong going into this match, and this was The Rock basically passing the torch to Brock Lesnar, and this match is how you do it. This is the perfect example of how to put over the next guy. The Rock did the right thing for business. He made Brock Lesnar look like $1,000,000. Crowd heat was off the charts for this match. People, you could just feel it in the building. People were ready for a new champion. They were ready for a new era. And, it was just Brock Lesnar's time, and he really shined here. So, fantastic match. And from a historical standpoint, very important match in WWE history. Now, moving ahead now, several years later, 2008. Undertaker versus Edge, Hell in a Cell. In my opinion, this was the last really good Hell in a Cell match. It was the first one after WWE went PG, but they still worked around it. Very entertaining match. The two of them broke the cell wall at one point, and this was the climax of the Undertaker Edge feud, which had been going on for almost a year at this point. Wasn't really a big fan of the post match with Edge being sent to hell and the flames shooting out from the ring. I mean, it was a bit over the top, but this was just a fantastic match with these two, and one of Edge's best matches of his career. And during this period, the SummerSlam pay-per-views really started to go downhill, and this is one of the matches that stands out to me after all these years compared to other SummerSlam matches of the time. And now my final match of the top 10 is from the 2013 SummerSlam, CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. I was there in person at Staples Center. Of all the Staples Center SummerSlams, I've been to all of them. This was the best match, in my opinion, no question. CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, right from the beginning of the match, Brock Lesnar tosses CM Punk halfway across the ring. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And it was. I mean, the two of them, they have tremendous chemistry together in the ring, and it was just a knockdown, drag-out fight, pure six brawl, just the two of them beating the crap out of each other. Excellent match, really good stuff, and Brock Lesnar picks up the big win here. When it was over, I felt like that one match made SummerSlam worth it, worth going there in person to watch. That match made it all worth it for me. So there you have it, my top 10 SummerSlam matches of all time. Let me know what you think. What are your top 10? What matches would you put in? What matches would you take out from my list? Let me know. Leave a comment. youtube.com/NoDQCAW. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding SummerSlam. I will be there in person once again to cover SummerSlam for NoDQ.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/NoDQ, DOTCOM. And stay tuned to NoDQ, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/NoDQCAW for No DQ&A video and other videos. And I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.